Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Dr. Ray. Welcome to my Nutrition Nation. I hope you guys are excited and ready today for a kind of most requested video of food reviews, dog food review today. And the reason why I'm saying it's most requested is I get a lot of requests for various formulations by Farmina, and so they've got a million different options, and I am consistently getting requests to do one here, one there, one here, one there. So today we are going to run through as many of the Farmina N&D versions as we can. And I sat down the other day to start formulating a chart, and I thought, why am I doing this? I can show you guys how to do the chart, and we can make the chart together and, you know, have a good time while we do it. So that's what we're gonna do today. So in order to do that, well, I guess before we get to that, I will let you guys know we are gonna make the chart, and the chart is gonna be the typical chart like I did in my video on Kirkland's and my videos on Nature's Logic and Nutrisource, the big mega chart. We're gonna make one of those today together. And so we're gonna fill in all those parameters, and those are the parameters that are in the Dr. A's pet food scoring system. We are going to try to do this relatively quickly so it does not take forever, and you will see what I'm talking about when we get into the information in the line. So I started the chart, and so I'm going to go ahead and show that to you, and then as we go down the line, we'll go ahead and fill this in. So I put up here in the top corner N&D, and this is the quinoa. And then you have the food will be, you know, across horizontally from that. And then the first category is going to be the main ingredient, just because it's hard to see the bag. So we're going to highlight the main ingredient there. Then we're going to have the kcal per cup so that we know how it falls as far as you know, feeding guide, and you know, how is it appropriately recommending. We're going to go into the life stage. Are they recommending the correct life stage? Was it feeding trialed? Is it grain free? Is it raw? And then what are the nutrient parameters that they are providing to us? And then once we get all that, we'll be able to formulate an overall score so that we can see the big picture. The important thing, and the thing that I think is good about Dr. A's pet food scoring system and why I developed it is you can take this chart and you can compare it to any other chart, because we're going to be using a dry matter basis. As long as you use a dry matter basis, you're golden. You can compare any food to any food, and so that's why I like to do that. I like to use hard, factual, concrete data, and that's what we're going to be doing today. I am not going to interject how I feel about it. I'm not going to, well, I will give commentary and interject how I feel about it, but it's not going to affect the overall score at the end. And so that's the game we're playing today. So there's a chart, and we're going to be filling that in as best and easily as possible. I do anticipate this to be a very long video. I may have to separate it into parts, but if you are feeling froggy, I would suggest maybe watching it on 2-speed, because that's how I watch pretty much every video I watch on YouTube, and I think that you'll still be able to get the information and it won't be too quick even if you watch it on 2-speed. So that's just a little suggestion before we get started. I also suggest maybe if you have a snack or a cup of tea, because again, I think this is going to be a rather long one. All right, so N&D by Farmina. You can follow along at farmina.com. We have reviewed Farmina food before. I think it scored very well. I have been trying to get into contact with them about maybe evaluating their vet line. I've been having some issues there with communication with them and follow up on their part, but what we need as far as evaluating the foods, they are all available on the website. They are going to have a little bit of a problem with these parameters are on a as-fed basis. I would have to email them and go through every single one of their 5 million options to ask for a dry matter basis. So I just went ahead and I did a few conversions, and I know that this, and I'll point out where these numbers, I know that this will be pretty accurate for our purposes today. So we're going to start out here. You can see they have dog and cat. They've got the N&D, they've got the Quinoa Prime, Ocean, Pumpkin, Ancestral Grain, White, Brown, and then Tropical selections. Again, we're not going to do the vet life because I couldn't really get any information on those foods whatsoever, and those are prescription. So we're going to be sticking to the non-prescription foods right now. Okay, so N&D, what is N&D? It is natural and delicious. So we're going to go through the natural and delicious line right now from Farmina. So first one that we come across is the Canine Formula Digestion. It's a lamb. You can see that they've got here the regular canine formula, and then right next to it you get the mini formula. They are exactly the same. Okay, so when you open the canine formula and you scroll down to the guaranteed analysis, 25, 12, 1.9, 9, 7.5, so on and so forth. If you click back over and you go to the mini, it is exactly the same. So as we're going through this, we are not going to evaluate both because that's just silly and not productive of our time. Why do they do that? I am assuming the kibble size is different. The price is the same. The mini only comes in a 5.5 pound bag. I'm assuming the difference is the size of the kibble. It does not say that on here that I could find. So I'm not sure. You would have to call them and find out what's the difference between the adult and the mini. But as a nutritional, from a nutritional standpoint, they're exactly the same, and I went through several of them and they're all exactly the same. So we're just going to pick one from each. We'll just pick the regular canine formula, and then we'll go through as many as we can. So pulling up this guy here and pulling up our chart as well. So I went ahead and took that picture and put it there. We know that the ingredient is lamb. Pea starch. I'm not sure how I feel about pea starch being the second ingredient. We know that the pulses do have some issues being investigated. There's concern that the legumes or the pulses have an inhibitory effect on taurine. And so when your body cannot absorb or utilize taurine, that can lead to, at least the current working hypothesis is that can lead to some heart issues, specifically dilated cardiomyopathy. No, it is my understanding you cannot just add taurine back to the diet because it's an inhibitory thing. So it doesn't matter how much taurine you add, these pulses somehow are inhibiting its absorption. So I'm a little bit concerned with that being a pea starch, but it's not a grain-free diet. They do have quinoa in there, and so it's not so much the presence of the pulses, it is the volume which the pulses are used. And so we know that the ingredient list is based on weight and not volume. So you can't simply say, oh, pea starch is the second ingredient, therefore there's more pea starch in there than quinoa. You can't do that because it's not by volume, it's by weight. And so pea starch may simply just be heavier than quinoa. So it's a whole, that's why I don't use the ingredient list. It's a whole higher level education that's needed and more information that's not provided even beyond the education on this to properly evaluate it. The ingredient list is just too oversimplified to really get any quality information from it, and so that's why I don't pay attention or even worry about it other than grain-free or raw. And so over here for the grain-free or raw, we're going to put no on grain-free, we're going to put no on raw. Okay, so that's our first stop. We've got some supplemental information. We're not going to worry about this. It's to do with vitamins and minerals and things like that. And although, yes, they are important, they are not really necessary for filling out this chart, so we're going to speed past that. Now we get into the guaranteed analysis, and this is why I'm telling you this isn't a dry matter basis, but on the first one here, I'll just go ahead and run through it with you. What you need to do is you need to find the moisture content, which is 9%, and then you need to do a calculation, and there are calculators out there that you can use if you don't want to do the math. And then you can also do it by hand. And so I did this by hand the other day just to check it. And when it ends up, what you have to do after you set up your equations is you have to take, for example, the ones that we're going to be most worried about that are the closest are the minerals. So right now the calcium they're saying is 0.9. What you need to do is you need to do 0.9 times 100 divided by 91 because it's 100 minus 9, and that gives you 0.98. So it's still going to be within the acceptable range. It's only 100ths off. So I'm not going to do that every single video. Just know I'll put a little asterisk maybe at the bottom that says these are not a dry matter basis, just so that you know. And actually what we might be able to do is down here on the chart is just go ahead and add moisture. That way we know that this chart is going to be different than some of the other charts because it's not a dry matter basis, but again, it's not going to affect the overall score. So this was 9% moisture, protein at 25, fat 12, fiber 1.9, calcium was 0.9, and phosphorus 0.6. So now we've got the guaranteed analysis filled in. We've got a couple other parameters that we want to investigate. Let's go down here to the kcals per cup. That's the very next thing. This food is going to be 375 kcals per cup. So that means if you have a 20-pound dog, you're going to want to feed somewhere between 1 to a little less than maybe 1 to 1 and so we want 538 divided by 375. We want it to suggest us to feed between 1 and 1.5 cups. So let's see if that is telling us correctly. Of course, it's going to be really tiny. 1 to 1.75. So yeah, so that's correct. That's correct. So they're going to get the point for that. And again, we're not going to do that on every single one of them. We're just going to go ahead and fill that in. And this is pretty much the same feeding guide. I think the calories are pretty much the same on every single one. So we'll see that as we go through. Okay, so moving right along. Hopefully this will get smoother. I've never done it this way, so hopefully this will get smoother. Oh, we can pick the kibble size. Okay, it does tell you. This answers our question from earlier. Kibble sizes. The adult and mini kibble is 8 to 10 millimeters with a 4 to 6 millimeter thickness, and then their medium maxi is 14 to 17 millimeters thickness to 8.10, and then the adult is 19 to 21 with a thickness of 11 to 13. So I do appreciate that they are listing that. That is a great attention to detail. So that's the difference between their mini and their maxi and all that. The nutrients are exactly the same. It's just the kibble size that is different. All right, now we want to find the AAFCO statement so that we can evaluate the life stage. That was at the very beginning. We kind of passed over it, but we're going to circle back here. The N&D Quinoa digestion, blah, 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 is formulated to meet the nutritional levels set at AAFCO for maintenance. So it is an adult life stage, which is correct, and I really do like that. It did not have a feeding trial, so they're not going to glean a point there. But overall, this is going to be a pretty decent choice. Reason being, let's go ahead and pull up our adult chart here. Again, not going to pull this up every single one. I might put a little mini, somewhere, a little mini thumbnail for you guys that are new to the Nutrition Nation and probably aren't familiar with these numbers. I'll put a little mini thumbnail, but you can see that protein ideally for the adult dog, we want between 15 and 30, and they're going to be spot on. Fat at 12, we need to be between 10 and 20, so we're good there. Fiber just needs to be less than 5, so we're good there. And then the big ones that I really want you guys to focus and keep in mind, because this is a distinguishing factor from a lot of other foods, is the minerals. And so they're going to be good at 0.9, and they're going to be good at 0.6 on the phosphorus. And remember, even when we convert that to a dry matter basis, we are still fine, because we're not going to deduct points for a 10th or a 100th off, and even when we round that up, it's still within the parameters. So let's go ahead and add up the score, and then we'll fill that in, and we'll use this kind of a template for the other options in the N&D formula. So they got a point for the kcals per cup. They got a point for the correct life stage. They didn't get a point for the feeding trial because they didn't do them. They get a point for not grain-free, a point for not being raw, and then they get 5 points for the guaranteed analysis. So they get all the points on the guaranteed analysis, which is awesome. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that is a quite impressive score, I think. So that is the first one, guys. So let's go to the next one. So we talked about we're not going to do the mini. The only difference there is the size of the kibble. So the next one's going to be the herring. I just abbreviated that as fish. Let's do the AAFCO statement. The herring, et cetera, is formulated to meet AAFCO requirements for maintenance. So again, we're good here. Go ahead and put the adult in our chart. Scrolling down, same kind of idea, except we've got herring as the first ingredient, and then we've got the pea starch, the herring oil, the quinoa, et cetera. So no, they did not do a feeding trial. It said so on the AAFCO statement. No It is not grain-free. No, it is not raw. Moving right along. Extra extemporaneous vitamin information. I will say this guy right here, the vitamin E at 600 milligrams, which is I think equivalent to an international unit, is a very good number. So I'm going to give them props to that. Just give a little honorable mention to that. I know a lot of you guys are interested in vitamin E and some of the other parameters. So that number right there is a really good number for vitamin E if you guys are adding that to like your second line as you're evaluating these foods and trying to differentiate these guys against each other. All right, let's see if we can add in this guaranteed analysis. So for the protein, I'm gonna just actually make this a little bit smaller so it fits here. It doesn't keep toggling. 23 on the protein, 12 on the fat. Again, that moisture is the 9%. Our fiber was 2.8, a little bit higher in fiber than the previous. Calcium at 1, phosphorus at 0.8. And then the moisture here is 9. Again, I did the calculation and it is not going to take it out of the acceptable range. So we are not going to go through and calculate it completely. Last thing is the kcal per cup. It's 367, and so it is also going to be correct on that. So if I am adding this up correctly, it's very similar to the one before. This is also going to get a 9 out of 10. All right, moving right along. So far, these are very similar, and I would venture to say we were probably going to find out that they are all pretty similar. And so, you know, that would be a decision based on what you feel your pet does the best with. I do not suggest changing diets. I get this question a lot about changing diets, and if you change, they can't get a food allergy. That's not correct. That is an inappropriate way to think about it. I will do a video. I think I've resolved that I need to do a video because I get enough of these questions. Why food allergies in dogs are, I guess, different than people, because I think this information is being falsely extrapolated from human medicine and human allergy type things. But dogs and cats allergies are a specific type of hypersensitivity in which, in order for that hypersensitivity to happen, they must be exposed to the food. So when you are constantly changing your dog's food and exposing them to multiple protein sources and multiple and varied ingredients, you're actually allowing the body to then prime itself to have an allergen. And so then when your pet actually does have an allergy, it becomes almost impossible for your vet to then find a novel protein or find an ingredient because it's already been exposed to all of them and the immune system has already become aggravated. That's why a lot of vets now have totally abandoned the limited ingredient diet, which stinks because those tend to be cheaper, but so many of these companies have done this and put so many weird ingredients, they've kind of ruined it for everybody. And they made these things kind of over the counter, and so they weren't used appropriately, and now a lot of pets have allergies to a lot of ingredients, and vets have to go directly to hydrolyzed, and hydrolyzed diets are, you know, very expensive and they can be hard to get. And so I do suggest, and again, talk it over with your personal vet. I'm not making a medical recommendation, but don't just for the fun of it change your pet's diet frequently, because you can actually cause some health issues in the long run from a scientific, you know, standpoint. So I might do a whole video on that because I do get a lot of questions. All right, back to our regular scheduled programming here. The next one after the fish is going to be the quail. They call it skin and coat quail. I don't know what specifically about it is supposed to be healthy for the skin. I think that's just probably some buzzwords that they're putting on there. It does have turmeric. I don't know if it has enough turmeric to actually have anti-inflammatory properties. That is a thing where some evidence shows that turmeric, both in humans and people, can be anti-inflammatory. I don't know. We would have to find out from them, you know, how much turmeric's in there and have they tested it to see if it's clinically proven. Probably not, because they're not saying that they're treating skin or they're treating disease. They're just calling it skin and coat. So they're being very specific on their wording there, not to get into some false label claims. So it is formulated to meet the levels for adults. So again, we've got an adult formula, not feeding child. There's a picture of the coconut and the little quail. same thing. You see we got quail, and then we've got dehydrated quail, and then we've got the pea starch, and then right next to it you see it's got some herring oil, so they had to add some other things in there to balance it. You do see the turmeric there on the ingredient list, but again, we don't know how much or you know, how many milligrams per what your pet's going to consume or anything like that. So not grain-free, not raw. None of these are going to be grain-free because they all have quinoa, and quinoa is a grain, so spoiler there. Vitamin E again, 600 milligrams. Very good. And let's get into this guy here, the guaranteed analysis. So 23% fat, we're going to be at 12. Fiber 2.8. This is looking really similar to the one previous, the herring. We've got the calcium at 1. Phosphorus at 0.8, and yeah, this is almost identical to the other. Moisture at 9%, we'll fill that in the bottom. It is a little bit more cake house per cup at 389. And again, all these foods cost the same, so we're going to keep that in mind. So moisture at 9%, and so again, this is the exact same nutrient profile as the fish, so it is also going to get a 9 out of 10. All right, let's keep scooting on. Getting faster and faster. I will go back at the end and probably add the pictures because it's going to be time consuming to do that, and we're listing the main ingredient anyway, so I'll go back at the end, and when I post the final picture, it'll have all the nice pictures of all the bags. And why do I do that? I just like to do that, so you guys don't have to be part of that editing. I will do that on my own time. All right, so that was the, so I guess the herring was also a skin and coat, and that was the skin and coat quail. Now we are at the skin and coat venison. Same old here on the AAFCO statement, formulated, and it is for adults. The ingredients, you've got the venison as the first ingredient, dehydrated venison and pea. So you can kind of get the idea or the feel of what these guys are doing. They kind of found a formula. They kind of found their set it and forget it, and they were happy with the profile. And I'm pretty happy with the profile too. And then they just have been paying attention and kind of, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I really appreciate that, and I like that. I like that they were creative, but they were creative to the point where they found something that works and they are sticking with it. And I really do like that and appreciate it. So it was correct in that it was an adult food, not grain-free, not raw. Let's see what we got. Again, they got that vitamin E up there at the 600. And I mean, this is making for a pretty boring video because all of this stuff is like spot on to each other. It's spot on to the parameters, and then it is spot on to itself. So I mean, I think that attention to detail is pretty good. Now we're getting into the mineral part, and we are seeing a little bit of a differentiation here. The calcium is going to be in excess at 1.1, and when you do the calculations and you do the dry matter, that is going to bump it over, and also on the phosphorus at 0.9. So there's something about the venison, the way that they process it, or the way the venison comes in, or the amount of money that it takes for them to process those minerals out, if it's even possible, that they were not able to get it down to the mineral level that we wanted. And so there's not, I don't know a specific reason why your pet would need venison, and so perhaps venison would not be the one that I would pick. Now that we're doing this chart, we can see the whole line, which I guess is a good reason that I am doing this and you guys ask me all these questions, because now we can kind of see how to differentiate just the masses, just the overload that is happening. And honestly, that overload, the mini, the maxi, the N&D, the N&D this, the N&D that, the quinoa, the white, the da-da-da, that adds a lot of confusion to you. And the companies do that because they want to diversify their portfolio and they want to appeal to everybody, and you know, that's good marketing and that's good business. But in all honestly, nutritionally, it's really not necessary. They could have just made one food and stuck with it, but they probably ran the numbers and said, look, making all these foods will make more, you know, it may cost us a little bit more, but in the end we'll make way more. And so that most likely, and I'm not in the pet food business, I'm just talking from a business standpoint because I am a business owner, so I know how these things work. That is most likely the thought process. So if any of you guys are in business, I know Glenn's out there, he did pet food, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that is probably the cost benefit analysis that was done and why they've produced all these foods, there would be no other reason for them to do it. I guess unless the consumer was asking for it, and the consumer asks for it, and they ask for it with their dollars. So anyway, let's find the cake house, 367. So that's, you know, that's going to be spot on. I'm pretty sure, I'm going to click over just to be 100% sure that the feeding guideline is the same for all of these. They're all the N&D, and they're all going to be, yeah, they're all the same. So we don't need to be doing that every single one. This one, unfortunately, because the minerals were off, is only going to score a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, excuse me, miscalculated. They missed one because it's not feeding trial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So because the minerals were off, that bumps them down from a 9 out of 10 to 7 out of 10. It's still an okay choice, but why would you pick it when there are other options that were better and still the same food? So why would you choose it? You know, if you feel comfortable with Farmina, you've researched it, you feel comfortable with their processing, it's available, you're okay with the price point, why would you pick the venison? I don't know. If you're out there and you've done that, I would like to know your thought process, just so that I can, you know, maybe I'm missing something. But that's just kind of how I feel. But let me know and share with all of us, all your friends out here, if there is a specific reason why you would choose venison over maybe some of the others if you've made that choice. Okay, so moving along, next one that they have to offer for us after the venison is the duck. So same thing, great on the AAFCO statement. Duck, dehydrated duck, pea starch. I mean, we are just the same old here. Nothing wrong with that. 600 again on the vitamin E, so they're all going to be good on that. Let's get into the nutrient analysis. So we're going to pop duck in here. It is for adult. It was not feeding child, not grain-free, not raw. Protein at 23, fat at 12, fiber at 2.8, calcium on this guy at 1, so we're going to be good. Phosphorus at 0.8. So this is very similar, if not identical, to the fish, the quail, and the duck. They are identical, which is going to mean this is going to score a 9 out of 10. And the moisture is 9. 367 on the cake house on that one. So I definitely feel like Farmina is winning the award for me. Not only is it nutritious, but the most consistent portfolio that I have ever seen, honestly. You get the award for most consistent portfolio. Okay, moving on. That was the duck. Next one, and I know we're not doing any can just because we would have to convert it to do the can, so it's just not feasible in this particular format. But I do have a video on converting to a dry matter basis that makes that really easy to do if you are interested in that. So after the duck, you've of course got the duck mini, and then we've got a weight management lamb. So that's interesting. Let's see how that compares, because they're differentiating and saying specifically this is weight management. So it is still formulated, it is still for adults. Packaging looks just like the regular lamb, other than it says weight management on it. Lamb, dehydrated lamb, pea starch. So got the same vitamin profile, and let's see what we have here. So we have, I'm going to put L, weight, lamb weight, adult, no in the feeding trial, no grain-free, no on the raw, protein 28, fat at 8, so that's what they've done. They've reduced the fat, they've increased the protein, reduced the fat. Fiber, increased the fiber at 8.2. Moisture is still 9, and they've kept the minerals the same at 0.9 and 0.8. So you see, it can be done. You can adjust things but still keep them and make a weight loss program and do all those things and still keep your minerals appropriate if the company is, you know, a good company and is paying attention to detail and has zeroed in on that formula and is sticking to it, has spent the money to get to that formula. All these other companies that have these, you know, really high minerals and really high protein, the reason why they're doing that is AAFCO only cares about minimums. They're going to meet that minimum, and they don't have to do that extra regulation to actually bring things in like this. That costs money to bring things in from both directions. So they just go brr, and then this side goes brr, okay? So Farmina has actually taken the initiative to actually spend the money to do this. And that's very difficult. And so I give them points for that. And so if we looked at the numbers, we are still good on the protein. We're still good on, well, the fat's actually probably a little bit low, because the fat, ideally, we do want the fat to be between 10 and 20. Okay, yeah, so it's gonna be a little bit off, and that's because it's specifically aiming at weight loss. And so they've got the higher fiber, the lower fat, it's only 298 kcals per cup. So you could feed more cups of this and still, you know, your pet would be able to eat more food, so it's not that stark. You know, I used to feed my pet 4 cups a day, and then I did the calculations, or your vet told you 4 cups was too much. You got to cut to 2 cups. Okay, that's a big dramatic difference. And yeah, you're going to have that pet that's begging and, you know, miserable and making everybody miserable. So it's nice that they can get the calories down, so you can still give quite a few cups and calories, and then, you know, not be deficient in nutrients. So that's going to mean, though, that this particular food's only going to score a, because they didn't change the feeding guide. They're still going to be suggesting, yeah, they're still going to be suggesting to feed to feed a cat 1 to 1.5 cups, which is, I mean, that is going to work out actually, because it's 298 and 1.5 is going to be up above the 363. So yeah, they're going to get a point there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 1 on the fat, not 1 on the fiber, 6, 7. So this is why it's important to look at things in totality and not just go straight on the number, because the venison got a 7 out of 10, but the nutrient profile on the weight loss, which also got a 7 out of 10, was way better, because the guaranteed analysis was off, but it was off on things that have a purpose. We were purposely lowering the fat and adding the fiber, but keeping the minerals good. I don't know any reason why or condition why you would want higher minerals. That doesn't really make any sense. So I don't know why Farmina chose to do that, other than, like I said, they were trying to provide a venison option. The market research told them they needed a venison option, and they just couldn't make it work. And that's the case with some of these things. So a lot of these companies where the minerals are all off, and a lot of you guys are like, I don't understand how they do that. Why would they do that? Because sometimes you can't take these ingredients that people want, the blueberries, the this, the that, the alligator, the this, the weird ingredients, the bison. Sometimes you can't take those ingredients and make the nutrient profile appropriate. That's just the reality of things. Sometimes it's just not possible. And so we've got to get away from this idealized, I want to see what I want to see, I want the eye candy, and try to be real with ourselves and say, what I really want to see is what's most nutritious for my pet. Not what I've been conditioned, or what eye candy I want to see, because sometimes that eye candy is not consistent with nutrition. It's just not physically possible. So I think that's important to keep in mind. So it scored a 7 out of 10, which is still a good score. But if I had to pick, between the 7 out of 10s, I would definitely pick the weight loss formula before I picked the venison. All right, where are we? Moving right along. Now we've got the neutered adult. Let's see what that's about. We have the neutered adult mini and the neutered adult medium and maxi. Let's see what we've got here. It's complete food for adult neutered dogs. Daily quantities shown on this schedule are merely indicative, and they are required to be adjusted to achieve the right body score, and that's true of everything. They're not listing an actual AAFCO statement there like they have in the rest, so we're going to have to hunt for that. It is a duck formula, so duck, dehydrated duck, and then they've got sweet potatoes, dried beet pulp, dried whole eggs, quinoa seed, a lot of different varied things here. Again, very good on that vitamin content. So we're going to say this is neutered. the neutered diet. That's funny. So I have to research a little bit more on the life stage. They're not listing it the way that I like to see it. And we do know that it's not grain-free. We know that it's not raw. And then let's get into the guaranteed analysis. So the protein's at 30, which is still good. Let's do the conversion really quick on that. 30 times 100 divided by 91 is 32%. So it's going to be a little bit over when you do that. So we're not going to be able to give them a point there. Fat at 11 will be fine. Fiber 5.7 is over, so they're going to miss it there. Calcium at 1.2, going to miss it there. Phosphorus at 0.9, going to miss it there. So it looks like they got a little over creative with the neutered diet. There really isn't any reason to do that. You can adjust the regular diet. If you have a neutered pet that's prone to obesity, you can feed a low cal or whatever. There is no specific nutritional needs, like parameters for a neutered animal. So I think they got a little bit over creative here, and in doing so, they went out of their lane and they kind of have ended up missing the mark here. I'm trying to see, they don't list the AAFCO statement the way that I want to see it. So I couldn't find it, so I can't get 1 point there. It doesn't say for some reason, and I'm sure that we could, I'm gonna try to chat them. Why not? I'm just sweating here in my air condition not on for filming studio. So let's just do it. While we wait, I could turn the air on. I just can't. I will lower the volume.
A few moments later.
All right, my reprieve with the air conditioning is over. She finally got back to me. She just regurgitated what is on their website. This is not a typical AAFCO statement, but basically she's saying that it's formulated for adults. So we're gonna just fill that in there, because I don't think it's gonna score very well regardless. I mean, she couldn't tell me if it was what the AAFCO statement was for it, but that's what she's telling me, and she's the expert, so, or at least their expert, or their customer service expert. So we're gonna close out of the chat and get back to what we were doing. Okay, so let's, on this one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that was over when it wasn't a dry batter mesis, so we're still at 5, 6. Yeah, so this is only really gonna score, I think, a 6 out of 10. And that is, giving them that point for the AAFCO statement when they didn't really, they couldn't really give the information. So again, I think we got a little bit lost in the marketing here and lost sight of what is really important, which is the nutrients, because there really is no need to have a neutered formula, much less a neutered formula that is less optimal nutrition than your regular adult. This was just a bad idea, and don't know why it was brought to market. Okay, I think, let me see what there is on the cat version. I feel like that was probably a long enough a video and enough for today. I mean, they have so many options, and I do feel like I do want to explore them with you. If you like this style of video, please, please, please let me know. I know there's a lot more of you that watch these videos than like or subscribe or comment, but it means a lot to me if you guys would do that and give me some feedback on whether you like them, and share it with a friend, and just help the channel grow and bring maybe a new perspective, because it seems like a lot of the perspectives out there, like the same thing. Nobody's playing devil's advocate. Nobody's really objectively giving you guys the tools to evaluate the food yourself. A lot of these channels are, making you rely on them for the information, where I want to give you guys the information and teach you the tools. So please, please, please share the videos, shameless plug, share the videos with your friends. That would be awesome. But let's see here what they have for the cat line, because I don't know that I have it in me in this heat until I get the new air conditioner installed to, oh my gosh, to go through another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. This would make it a 2-hour video. We're gonna pause here. We're gonna have a part 2 and 3 and 4 and all that if you guys like, and do all the things and leave me comments. Otherwise, I hope that you enjoyed this. When we look at the chart, let's bring up the chart and kind of wrap this up here. When you look at the chart in totality, the take-home information that I feel like I gleaned was their foods are very consistent. What they're doing, they're repeating. They found kind of like the sweet spot and they're repeating it. It seems that when they deviated from that and they got a little too crazy and a little too creative with the line, like with the neutered individual, is where things really started to plummet. And so I feel the lamb, the fish, the quail, the duck, and the weight management were all really good options. I was a little bit less impressed with the venison, and I was absolutely not impressed with the neutered. I don't see any reason why you would ever feed their neutered mini or maxi. And I don't know why personally I would ever feed the venison. So if it were me, I would pick the lamb, the fish, the quail, or the weight loss, and I'd call it a day. So I hope you guys enjoyed. That was by popular request, Farmina N&D, the quinoa line, and there's about 52 other lines that we can also evaluate in the near future if you guys would like, and we'll do that. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.